Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Gary. Welcome to my house in Park Hill. Please come in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
So my name is Gary Brewer, and we are in my house in Park Hill in Yonkers, just north of the city, and I am an architect. Like many people in New York, I'm not originally from New York. I am from the Midwest, and when I came to New York, I lived in the Village, then I moved to Brooklyn, near Brooklyn Heights. And I was at a stage in my life where I was looking to buy something. I had read about this neighborhood in the New York Times, and so I drove to the house in the neighborhood, and I ended up buying one of the houses that was in the article. What I like about the house is that it's a historic 1915 house, an American Foursquare in a historic neighborhood. And for decades, Americans have been investing in neighborhoods where there were great old houses, and they helped to revive them and renovate them. So when I moved here, my goal was to renovate the house, and I did it sort of project by project. And I tried to do it in such a way that everything that I did would appear to be historic. And so it was kind of working to make the house maybe more of what it might have been. So we are in the entry hall and the stair hall, and when I found the house, much of it was here. I did a lot of repainting and refinishing oak. The ceilings were raised up because I found that there was drop plumbing. I added the beams, I had the wall coverings added, and then I furnished the space. There was originally a radiator here, and I had a radiator cover made, and then I did the sort of urns and bas relief and the painting. And then on the other side is a place to sit down and tie your shoes and hang hats and, you know, all the things that you typically need to have in an entry hall. The wall covering is a light blue fabric. And I thought it added color without being sort of overwhelming. It's not a big house, and so I think that the selections I made for painting and colors is, you know, to highlight the architecture, but not to overwhelm the architecture of the house. So I found a lot of the furniture and light fixtures through places like First Dibs and Cherish and Etsy. And so that is a 1950s, 60s brutalist light fixture. I mean, I do like traditional design, but I have moments of more modern pieces here and there. So off of the entry hall is a living room. In the living room, the centerpiece of the living room is a fireplace, and there was an existing fireplace here when I bought the house, but it was more of an arts and crafts with a brown brick surround. And so I redesigned it and did the tiles from Waterworks, and I did the design for the mantelpiece and the overmantel, and then the sconces. The fireplace is used all the time. It's not a gas fireplace, it's a wood-burning fireplace, and so starting in the late fall to the early spring, I make a fire at least 3 or 4 times a week. The other thing that's nice about the living room is it has triple exposure, meaning it has windows on all 3 sides. And when I bought the house, it had small historic double hung windows, And it took me a long time to get up the nerve to replace them because I just wanted to open up the inside to the gardens and the outside, but I tried to do windows, new windows that were, one would imagine could be in the character of the house. And you can see in the back, the larger windows and doors open to the garden, and then on the front, it opens up to the front porch. And then there's a place for a TV, and I designed a cabinet to hide all of the TV and stereo equipment, and to kind of tuck the TV into a composition so it doesn't sort of overwhelm the room. I would say that the furnishing in the room is to accommodate, you know, how you use it. So there's a pair of sofas, and I actually custom designed the sofas, and I had them made in Atlanta. The colors in the house, I would say it's colorful, but it's neutral. So there's a lot of beiges and gray blues and gray greens. So to be calm, but also to add color to the scheme. The other thing about the color scheme is with the new larger windows, it makes the room seem bigger. And with the greens in this room, I think it helps bring the outside in. And so in a small house, I think one of the things you're trying to achieve with the architecture and the decorating is to make the rooms seem a little bit bigger than they are. The rug is a kind of light beige with gray greens, and I had it custom made to fit underneath the seating group and around the fireplace, and it sort of centers and grounds the seating group within the room. So another trick for making a room look bigger is to install mirrors. And so you can see over the mantelpiece and on one side of the room and the other side of the room, I have large mirrors. And what that does is they capture the light and they reflect the room and the outside. So I think it's a kind of decorating trick to make a room seem bigger. I mean, classical architecture in America, there were a series of styles, and I would say that the Greek revival started in the 1830s. But at the same time, there were other styles that were happening simultaneously that went all the way up to the World Columbian Exposition, which was in Chicago, that started a sort of vogue for classical style. So I think that the objects that I have collected sort of follow the architectural trends and the sort of interest in neoclassicism. When I bought the house, the windows and the ceilings were really dark oak. They had been covered in shellac. And it took me a lot of time and nerve to decide that I wanted to paint them. And so I painted them in neutral colors. I think that if you look at the windows are a gray-green, and they're different than the casing around it, which is off-white. And I think it adds architectural interest. You know, a lot of people will just paint all the windows the same color, and I think by doing those little things makes a room seem special. I decided to become an architect because I wanted something artistic that also I felt had social relevance. And what I like about being an architect is whether I'm working on a house or a university project or a hospitality project is it's a chance to research a place and its architectural history, and it's a chance to make an impact on a place that you build in. And I'm the kind of architect where, unlike many more modern architects, I'm the sort of architect that likes to do new buildings that are particular to the architectural character of the place I work in. When I found the house, my first reaction was, wow, because it's up at the top of a hill with, you know, a big flight of steps. And having worked at Wave Hill and learning about gardens there, I knew that I wanted to not only renovate the house, but also dabble in gardens and landscape design. And so in the front and in the rear and on the sides, I worked over the years to do gardens. I furnished and decorated the house on my own, and I think that interior design should work with the character of the interior architecture. So the living room opens to the stair hall, and the stair hall opens up to a small dining room. And so this room, when I found it, had a tiny little, what's called a piano window. And in the 19th and early 20th century, many American homes had an upright piano. And so a piano window is a window that is up high that allows you to put an upright piano against it. Sadly, I don't play the piano. And what I wanted to do, and all of these windows are new, is I wanted to capture the views outside of the landscape. So I had a new picture window made there, but I had it done in a way that looks historic. And then storage in a small house is always an issue. So I designed the cabinetry and the cupboards there as part of the composition. I have a dining room table, and then I have another large picture window that was designed to open up to the porch on the outside. So I also replaced the lighting fixtures, and I liked the kind of yellowish glow and the pendant fixtures with the sconces that match. I also am interested in urns, and so I collect architectural urns, which you can see on the top of the cabinetry and in the light fixtures, and those are alabaster. And you can see right here as well. I also have in this room architectural prints, lithographs of places that I have visited, India, Rome, Paris, and so it's a little bit like the John Soane house. These lithographs, this is in Rome, this is in Delhi. I also collect transferware, and transferware also has architectural scenes. These are of Rome, this is of Delhi. So it's a kind of collection of places that I've been with an architectural theme. So I have a cabinet with transferware. I had started collecting it in the late 80s. And you can see they have architectural scenes on it. And I also like the craft of how they were making it. And these were, you know, objects for the middle class. I mean, the Industrial Revolution was happening, and there were sort of industries that were doing products for not just the rich, but the middle class. So I started collecting these, and I keep them in a cabinet in the dining room. So the rug in the room is sort of a beigey golden color, and it is in a way kind of like a garden and with a geometric. And so it grounds the dining room table, but doesn't have so much pattern that it overwhelms the character of the room. The dining room table is a neoclassical table, and you can see it has fluting on the center portion with lion's claws, and then the chairs that go with it also have a kind of traditional neoclassical detail. So off of the dining room is the kitchen, and it's separated by a bifold door. And when I found the house, the kitchen was a real disaster. It had 1970s brown wood cabinetry. And so everything in this room is virtually new. I replaced the small windows with new larger windows. I have a door that opens to the backyard. And keeping with the sort of history of the house, when I designed the kitchen, I was imagining that it might feel sort of like a later edition, like a 1940s or 1950s kitchen. And that works with the sort of objects that I have collected in it. So I had new cabinetry made, I had new stone tops made. Of course, I got new appliances. I had the new wall covering. There's a nice little breakfast nook, and I added windows and doors that open to the garden. And you know, the room has kind of a 1940s kitchen feeling. One time, I had friends over, and a friend's wife said to me, "Oh my God, I love your kitchen. It's just like my grandmother's." And I thought, oh, that's nice, I think. But I kind of like the feeling, and I think it works with the historic character of the house. And you can also see in the color scheme, you know, the ceilings, I had the beams added and the beaded board. Those are two different colors. For the island, I have two different colors. I have wall covering that works with the gray greens and the beiges of the room. So when you walk in, it doesn't look like it's a vibrant color scheme, but when you spend time here, you can see the little details in terms of the color scheme that make, I think, it look special. This breakfast nook is an addition to the house, and it was probably built in the 1970s. And it originally had 3 tiny little windows. So I had the window openings made bigger with new windows. And you can see it faces the side, and there's an outdoor seating group here. It faces the garden in the rear of the house, so it opens up to the garden there. And then it also, on the other side, opens up to another seating group and the fountain beyond. This house is an American Foursquare, and it is likely a pattern book house. And you know, in my professional life, I do a lot of custom houses, but I also worked in 1994 and 1996 on a House for Life magazine, and then a House for This Old House magazine. And I started to learn about the history of pattern book houses in America. Most houses were not designed with patrons of architecture. They were designed with builders and architects that worked in the pattern book industry. And the American Foursquare, this house is nothing special in the sense that there are thousands and thousands of American Foursquares all over America, but they were wonderfully planned and nicely detailed. And in comparison to a lot of the new houses today, McMansions, this is an example of what houses used to be like and actually what they could be like in the future. An American Foursquare has a plan that is a box, and it basically divides it into 4 squares, and typically the stair is right in the middle. The living room, like the living room that we're in right now, is 2 squares of the American Foursquare. The dining room is typically 1 square, and then the kitchen is the 4th square. The second floor is similar to that, and they often have a porch in the front, and they're 2 stories, many times with a hip roof and a dormer. And they come in lots of different styles. They can be kind of colonial revival, they can be Mediterranean, they can be, you know, arts and crafts. This house is a little bit of everything. I kind of joke that it's a bit of a mutt because it has a lot of different features. So in the center of the house, like most American Foursquares, there's a stair. So let's go up to the 2nd floor. So the stair has a landing with a big double hung window that opens out to the garden. And the color scheme from the main level carries up here. And then on the 2nd floor, there are 3 rooms off of the stair landing. This is the primary bedroom. And when I first found the house, this was 2 rooms, but it was super tiny. And so I had the wall removed, and I kept the French doors that go to the upper level porch. And I had closets made, and I have Italian murals that cover the doors. And then on the other side, I repurposed the existing historic doors and have closets here, and then had a little window seat made for this side of the house. The color schemes are kind of grays and greens. And because the house is on the top of a hill and we're on the 2nd floor, you're looking out into the trees. And so I thought that the color scheme would be nice to carry the colors of the trees. It's a bit like sleeping in a tree house. As an architect, in the work that I do, I not only design houses and interior architecture, I've also designed furniture and light fixtures. And so I designed the bed, and I selected the fabrics, and I did drawings for it, and I had an incredible person build it in Connecticut. In fact, it was the same people that did all of the window treatments. On an architectural theme, I also collect bas-reliefs, and so you can see that those are displayed on this side. I also like alabaster, and so I have alabaster light fixtures here and an alabaster fixture here. And again, I think that the feeling in this room is that it's not bright and colorful, but it's colorful enough so that it doesn't look like a just all white or an all gray room. The lighting in the room, there's a pair of alabaster light fixtures on either side of the bed. There are pendants, there are alabaster fixtures there and there. And I like low levels of light, and they're also switched separate from each other. So you can make the room really bright, or you can turn on one or two fixtures when you want a sort of lower level of light. I have a dog, Billy, who is a wire hair fox terrier. And wire hair fox terriers were famous from the Thin Man series with William Powell and Myrna Loy. And Billy is the fourth wire hair terrier I've had. So I have collected over the years objects with terriers. You can see it on the pillow, you can see it on the sides of the bed, and then in other rooms I have terriers as well. So another room on the second floor, this used to be a bedroom, but I use it more as a study. And I'm interested in arts and crafts furniture. So I have arts and crafts pieces that I have collected. I have an oak roll top desk. I have a lot of books, so I've had bookcases built. And this room has grass cloth wall covering. And with the arts and crafts kind of feeling, I've collected paintings and lithographs that have an outdoor theme. I have paintings of horses. When I was younger, I rode. I found this wonderful painting of fishes and a fishing pole, and it just seemed to kind of work with the decorating feeling of a library. Roll top desks were popular from the 1880s, I think, to maybe the 1930s, and this one was probably in somebody's office, and the tops roll down and close, and when you pull the top down, the drawers lock, and so it was sort of a workplace in an earlier era. So I needed a sort of coffee table in the room, and I thought that I found this oak chest at antique shop in Chelsea, and so I have it as a coffee table. As part of the interior renovations, each of the rooms has a special paint scheme. I'm not frightened of color, but it's also not over the top colorful. And the paintings and the art work with the color schemes. I also collect things. I mean, because we are near the Hudson River Valley, many of the paintings are of the Hudson River Valley. I also have lithographs of places that I have traveled to. So I would say that the art is a little bit about me and the places I've been and things that I'm interested in. So from the second floor, there's a stair that takes you up to the third floor. And I have a runner that brings you up here. But I also have collected landscape paintings. Some of them are from people who probably learned how to paint in a class, and some of them are from artists. So I collect them, and they kind of carry through with the natural theme. The landscape paintings carry through the theme of the outdoors. And at the top of the landing is this lumberjack that sort of, I think, works with the other landscape paintings in the stair. So we are up in the roof of the house, and when I originally found the house, this room was really not utilized. But in a small house, every bit matters. So I had this renovated and redesigned to work as a home office. So I had the bookcases built, I had the side desk built, I had the window seat built, and this gets used as a home office. And I work from here as well. So a lot of the furniture I have has kind of an architectural pedigree. And the furniture in this room is from the Amsterdam School. And the Amsterdam School was happening concurrently with the arts and crafts and craftsman movement in the United States. And I found many of these pieces online, and they work, I think, with the character of this as a home office. And then here is where I work on drawings. And then the rest of the room, I have grass cloth wall covering. And then since this is open to the dormer at the stair, I had window treatments made. Sometimes if somebody is staying over, they will sleep on the little window seat, and all of the curtains can be closed. When I found the house, there was a door. and this was a wall, and it just seemed so claustrophobic, and I didn't really need it as a bedroom. So I redesigned it to have an opening, and I have no door there, but I had the window treatments done so that you could close it off when push came to shove to use as a bedroom. So when I came to New York, I worked at a fairly well-known firm, Robert Stern Architects, and I eventually became a partner, and I was there for over 25 years. And I had a team of 20 to 30 architects that worked with me. I did houses, I did hotels, I did multifamily. I did a lot of work in Charleston in the South. And as Bob Stern steps away from the firm and they work to have a third generation of partners take over the firm, it seemed for me a good time to work independently. So I use this home office to work from, and I am working with clients doing houses and hospitality and academic projects. I've done houses in the Hamptons that have been in Architectural Digest. I am doing townhouses in the West Village and on the Upper East Side. I've done a lot of work down in Charleston and Kiowa. And as an architect, I'm not interested in one building type. I like to work on houses, but I also like to work on academic. I was the architect for the Student Center at the Harvard Business School. I did a fitness and aquatic center at Brown University. I like the mix of different projects, but they tend to be mostly traditional, but they try to focus on the architectural of the character of the place, and they're particular to their location. The practice of architecture is quite interesting, and it starts with how an architect is trained in school. And most architectural programs train an architect to be a modernist. And I sort of found that intellectually interesting, but kind of a dead end. And if you look at American cities and how they have changed after the advent of modernism, it's hard to come to the conclusion, I think, that that is somehow better than the urbanism and the building design that happened before the Second World War. And so there are programs like Notre Dame, Miami, Catholic University, where they are starting to teach students to not only look at modern design, but look at traditional design. And as a young architect, and I learned about architects in the 1920s, I thought that there would be a path for me that would be somewhat different than the modern path within the world of architecture. So at the front of the house is a small porch, and I think that every porch should have a seating group to sit down and have a drink or have coffee, and then also a place for outdoor dining. So I use this space a lot for entertaining. I have coffee here every morning. In terms of the architecture, I had to replace the floor, I had to replace the columns, the light fixture is original, I had the trellises built. You can see the new, bigger windows. And so much of it, although it looks historic, is brand new. So the furniture is antique wicker, which one would have seen in a house of this era. So it's a seating group here. I had the trellises and the antique leaded glass installed because it helped to give me a little bit of privacy from the neighbor. And I also have a lot of plants that are used to bring the garden up into the porch. The house is up on a hill, and there are at least 4 tiers. There's the porch, there's the level below, and then there's the front of the house. And what is nice about not being at the street level is that when you're on the porch, there's a certain amount of privacy, and the landscaping, virtually everything in the front of the house is brand new. I planted it, or I had it planted. So the house is set up high on a hill, and there is a big flight of steps. The good thing about it is it's pretty dramatic and it gives you privacy from the street. The bad thing about it is you have to climb all the steps. So maybe when I'm 80 years old, I might regret the steps. On the porch, the columns are new, the trellises are new, the windows are new. The front door was in the location that it is right now, but it didn't have a surround, so I designed the shutters and the overdoor. And when I did the shutters, I thought it was kind of a fun idea I have a little kind of cutout of the front of the house, and I have the date of when the house was built. So from the porch, there is one flight of steps that take you down to this level. And when I found the house, there was a retaining wall that was right here. So I had the retaining wall pushed out, and I have a little seating group here with a fountain. I like the sound of water when you're on the upper porch. And then this is a little area and garden that I had planted as part of the renovation of the house. There's a fountain in the front of the house and there's a fountain in the back of the house. And I think in garden design, water is always a feature. And it's beautiful because birds come here and drink from it. And then when you're in the porch, you hear the sort of bubbling of the fountain. So I think that was the reason for having the fountain as part of the design. So on the other side of this level, there's a small garden, and it too has a seating group. And the planting here kind of envelopes you and gives you a certain amount of privacy from the street and from the neighbor. I tend to use the porch the most. And each of these seating areas and gardens get used, but there's value in having a pretty scene to look at. And so that is kind of what I was thinking about with the design of the garden. Any garden, like an English garden, is meant to have planting that is interesting in every season. And so I have planted the gardens around the house so that there's color in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall. So we're in September, and at the end of the September, there's not a lot of interest. So I have gotten fall plants for sort of the oranges and the reds so that it's as interesting in the fall as it is in the spring and the summer. In the design of the landscape, beyond having beautiful gardens to look at, I also was thinking about how the planting in the trees could give privacy. So even though this is a narrow and deep lot that's surrounded on all three sides with houses, I think that when you're up here, you get the sense that you're here all by yourself. And it's also really beautiful because the porch on this side of the house is set high and it faces east. So you get beautiful sunrises from this side of the house. So we're in the back garden of the house, and it's an important outdoor space. The living room and the kitchen open up to it. But because there are neighbors, in the design of it and the landscaping of it, I thought it was important to have a little bit of privacy. So everything that you see here is all brand new. All of the stone floors, the stone walls, all of the planting is new to the house. And then there's a little fountain here, and you hear the water from the inside, but it's also on center with the new larger windows and doors that open up to the living room. There is also a large stone wall and planter that helps buffer the space and give a little privacy. There's a little seating group right here that has pots and plants that surround it. And then on the other side, there is another planter that's planted with bushes to help give privacy, and there's a seating group here with a pair of obelisks for trailing vines. When I entertain, especially in nice weather, everybody wants to be outside. And so I have a table set up with drinks, and I have a table set up with food. And depending on how many people are coming, they use the front, they use the porch, they use the back. So I think that all spaces end up being used quite a bit. On this side of the house, as part of the stone walls and planting, there's a small little seating group. And I think that in garden design, one of the things that you're trying to do is have focal points. So this acts as a focal point on this side of the garden. On this side of the garden, there's a focal point, and then you can see through this opening right here, There's a small seating group with a stone wall, and that's a focal point as well. So off of the breakfast bay, there's a small little seating area with stone walls and a bluestone floor, and I have planting here. And hidden out of the view is a grill. So this space gets used a fair amount during the summer. I think that when somebody decorates a house, it isn't just about doing something that looks nice. I think it's also accommodating how people live. And so I think that when you furnish a living room, when you furnish a garden, there needs to be a lot of thought about how do people gather, and eating food is a big part of being in a house, and also how do they communicate with each other. I mean, there are many interiors that are beautiful, but they look a little stagey, and I also think that how a space is used is equally important. I think a house is a place, obviously, that one lives for their lifetime. But I also think for a historic house, in a way, you're a caretaker or a steward for the house. Somebody lived in the house before you, and someone will live in the house after you. And my feeling about the work that I've done on this house is I would like to imagine that I made it better, and that when I pass it on to someone else, that they will take what I have done and they will keep it and they will also kind of continue making a place better. Especially an old house. When I bought the house, a local historian gave me a note card with the names of all of the owners of the house. And there were 6 or 7 owners, one of which was the bank during the Depression. And it makes you realize that one only lives in a house for a certain amount of time, and people live in it before you and people live in it after you. And so I just think it's important as a homeowner that you take care of a house and you make it better, not worse.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.